So one of the things I'm noticing a lot lately when people come in is that a lot of people are getting stressed out and struggling with progress because they're trying to solve problems that haven't actually happened yet. In video game terms, what this is like is you're on level 1 of a game, but mentally you are jumping forward in time and trying to defeat level 4 and level 5. You're not there yet, and meanwhile level 1, nothing happens. For example, just the other day, somebody came in who's trying to work on dating, and he saw somebody out in public that he thought was interesting, and he wanted to go talk to her, but he told me he was stressing out because he's like, well, what if she's got a boyfriend, and what if we don't have chemistry, don't get along, or what if we have nothing in common? And I was like, okay, well, those are level 4 and 5 concerns. What did you do? And he's like, well, I didn't talk to her. Basically, he couldn't do step 1 because he was concerned about the problems of step 4 and 5. And I told him that's not your issue. You need to leave step 4 and 5 for the future, and you need to focus on step 1. Your goal is to go from stranger to non-stranger. That is your only task at level 1. Focus on that. So that was an example of somebody who was jumping so far ahead that he was stressing himself out and not doing the task that he should actually be focusing on. Maybe that resonates with you. Why do we do this? Well, I think it's pretty clear. On a psychological level, what's happening is that there is a part of our brain that can predict potential future problems we might see. And when we predict those, we want to problem solve. We want to come up with a solution in advance. And that is an admirable task. It's not very helpful a lot of the times. So let's look at why. So the first problem with jumping ahead is that as humans, we are pretty terrible at telling the future. We just are. And so in order to try to solve this future problem, we have to invent it. And we're probably likely to predict the wrong problem. And I see this all the time when people work with me. They'll be really stressed about some future thing. By the time we actually get there, guess what? That problem doesn't show up. So what it's meant is they've spent all of this time solving a future problem that never comes. They've wasted time, and they've stressed themselves out for nothing, basically. A lot of times, if something does go wrong, right, it's not that. It's something they have not prepared for. The second problem with jumping ahead is that the more you're focused on a future potential problem, the level 4 or the level 5, then the less attention you have for your current step and your current goals and what you're actually working on. So you actually end up investing less in the present, which will actually help you, and you're wasting it all in the future. The way I see this play out a lot of times is that people will be worrying so much about these future steps and what could go wrong that they just kind of stop dead still. They're not investing in it anymore. They're not making progress. They're not practicing. They're not making attempts. And so they just come to a standstill. Or they end up giving up because it feels like, oh, this is too much. I can't do this. I've had people who have given up on things where they actually were even making progress because they've jumped ahead in time and imagined it is so hard in the future, or that it's not worth it in the future, or maybe even they get sick of it in the future, that they've stopped in the present even though they're making progress. Or there's people I've talked to who don't do a whole range of in the present things that actually matter because they haven't solved some future hypothetical problem. In video game terms, what this looks like is, you turn the video game on, you start playing, and then you start stressing about some challenge on level 4, and you stop on the level you're on, and you make no more progress for all that time. So the secret is you can make the best gains by being as focused as possible on what you're currently doing. Again, video game terms, right? You're probably gonna play better if you are focused on what's happening right in front of you, rather than if you're time traveling into the future. And if you want to solve that problem at level 4, level 5, probably the most useful thing is being good at what you're currently doing, because it means your foundational steps will be more solid. The third issue with jumping ahead is that you, in your current state, are not ready to solve a future problem. You don't have all the resources. But luckily, there is someone that can solve that future problem, and that is future you. So future you is you. They have all of the stuff that you have in the present, but they also have knowledge and skills that they have gained between level 1 and level 4. Right? So we want to respect future you. Future you can do things. Future you is at least as good as you. I'm going to argue better, right? So I've seen this happen a bunch of times where people will be really stressed about something, and then by the time they actually get to it, they've been dreading it. They actually reach that point, and they're like, oh, wait, this wasn't that difficult, or that actually the solution was pretty easy to come up with. Regularly, kind of, because they've been through all the preceding steps leading up there. It's almost like it's training them to deal with it by the time they get there. Again, think in video game terms. If you are starting level 1, you've got no practice, you don't know what you're doing. By the time it gets to level 5 though, you've already completed 4 levels. Like, you've gotten pretty good, you've gained experience, you've gained knowledge, you practiced. And it's the same for all our problems. Future you has more experience and has more information, and so is therefore better able to solve the problem. So delegate those future concerns to future you. Future you is you, but better. No offense. So for example, I had somebody I was working with who'd been on like a couple of dates, and he was struggling and stressed out around asking himself, is this the right person for a committed relationship? And I was like, this is not your task to solve. This is a task for future you. You don't have that information. You're early on, you're just gathering information. You're in the information gathering stage. Future you is going to have gathered a whole bunch of information that will start to make it clear whether it's the right person for you or not. All you have right now is information on whether this person is terrible for you. So delegate that task to future you. If this is you, if you ever do get ahead of yourself and start to struggle or stress out because you're on a future problem, not in the present problem, then here's my advice. Here's what to do. Firstly, anytime you start to get stressed out or you're struggling, ask yourself, am I focused on a future step, a future problem, or is this happening in the present right now? If you find, no, this is a hypothetical or a future problem, then delegate that task to future you, who again, is you but better, okay? And then refocus your attention on the task that's right in front of you. Focus on your current task. Give it your full attention, and you'll make the most progress possible. And also, you will set things up so that future you is better prepared to handle future problems. Hope that helps.